And we do want to continue our conversation. We heard there Paul talking about the situation north of Dallas with his family friends. I want to invite Diana Gomez. She lives in Austin, where the storm and subsequent power outage have driven her out of her home. Hi, Diana. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. Tell me a little bit about where you are right now.
Hi, thank you for having me. I am currently in my boyfriend's sister's apartment that she shares with a roommate. So there's 4 of us trying to stay warm here. I'm actually trying to warm up, especially right now, because we just came back in from a trip going out to try to collect snow since we've run out of water to use it to try to flush the toilets and use whatever else with it. So we're just melting snow inside of our apartment right now.
So I see the lights are on where you are, but you left your home because there was no power there.
Yes, was in an apartment in north central Austin for 2 days. It got really cold outside, as cold as like 9-10 degrees. Was snowing. It snowed about 6.5 inches, which is record breaking here in Austin. That doesn't happen. That hasn't happened since the early 1900s. And our power grid couldn't take it. And they told us we would have rolling blackouts, but that has never been the case here in Austin. We've just been without power since Monday at 2 in the morning, and when it got down to 49. And we're cooking food with fire outside of the apartment. We decided we should, it sucked to figure out how to risk the road and come over here to find power. But since this morning, that we've run out of water and have cut off the heat.
Yeah, we're looking at some pictures now of you, I guess, in the backyard with a fire. And I'm sure you've heard the warnings to be very careful, because some of the deaths have been linked to people trying to stay warm inside. What's the food situation like as well? Because have you been able to go out and get groceries? If you don't have power, you didn't have power in your place. What's that like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we didn't go out to get groceries. I have a friend who's an EMS worker, and she'd been telling me about all of the terrible accidents out on the road because of people trying to drive. But Texans, we don't have as many 4-wheel drive cars. We don't have snow tires. We don't have the streets that can be melted with any sort of chemicals or salts. We don't have any of that. There are fire trucks that were carrying their own kitty litter to try to figure out how to move around, and so we didn't do that. And I'm lucky that my boyfriend is an avid camper, and so he had this camping gear, and we had some food from a camping trip. So we had granola and peanut butter for breakfast, and we were eating some canned tuna.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a picture of your lunch here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really lucky that he knows how to be safe. So when we did make that fire, it was outside, only for a short time, only for a couple bowls of chili, but realized that we can only try that enough times before it might get dangerous. So that's when we made the trek over to his sister's place.
What can you tell us about what you've noticed in terms of which areas and who have been hardest hit by this blackout?
Yeah, definitely. Last one I heard before we left, it was about 40% of Austin was without power. It might be more or less now. The only thing that's very difficult, not the only thing, but one of the things is, like I mentioned before, it's not a rolling blackout. People aren't taking turns in getting energy. It's the same people who haven't had energy. A big thing that's happened is that, there have been lots of pictures, especially on Twitter, being shared by the media, of the stark difference between our downtown Austin, which is full of these high-rise apartments, very expensive places to live, and a lot of hotels that are very nice and where wealthy people stay. Those have been lit up the entire time. Very empty business buildings have been lit up, and that's on the west side of Austin. That's where more wealthy folks live. And then in East Austin, you can see that on that side of the picture, it's pitch black, it's dark. And in that part of town is where predominantly people of color, black and brown folks live. And, folks, they've told us it's because, they need to make sure that like hospitals and fire stations have energy, and they're on the west side of town. And that is true. However, as people who know the history of Austin know that black and brown people used to live in West Austin. They used to be by those really important resources. but they've been displaced on purpose to the east side of Austin. So these are people of color that have been historically displaced, historically marginalized, and pushed away from these integral resources. And so it is very much people who have been historically marginalized are continuing to be marginalized and continue to not have access to this power.
As we head into now day 3, I think, of power outages, do you feel like officials have failed you, or do you feel like they're doing the best they can in an unprecedented situation?
No, they have 100% failed. They've known that this was coming. It's been, I just saw this afternoon a presser with Governor Abbott blaming about everybody else but himself for this tragedy, even blaming the Green New Deal, which is something that doesn't even exist yet, that we would love to have here in Texas, renewable energy. But, we've all learned since he and other Republican leaders have just been really into deregulation. And a lot of folks have learned over the past week what ERCOT is, and the fact that, our power grid is not hooked up to the rest of the country. It's its own power grid. That's a power grid that's run by the state. So our state leaders, our state governor, they're responsible for this failure that they should have seen coming, but they have denied climate change for so long. This was bound to happen. This is a tragedy. Many lives have been lost. A lot of people are trying desperately to figure out how to heat up their homes because we're not used to this weather. We're not used to below freezing temperatures. We're desperate. We're trying to keep our pets and our children and our babies alive. And so unfortunately, people have brought in firewood and set their houses on fire, have let their gas stove tops on overnight, not realizing, carbon monoxide poisoning is a thing. And it's really tragic. All the lives that have been lost, all of this danger, I blame the failed leadership.
All right, Diana Gomez, an Austin resident, thanks so much for being with us, and stay safe and good luck to you. We hope that you won't be dealing with this for too much longer, but that does remain to be seen.
Thank you.